ణపరపతి విధానంపై రిజర్వ్ బ్యాంక్ ఆఫ్ ఇండియా గవర్నర్ శక్తికాంత దాస్ మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. ప్రత్యక్ష ప్రసారం ద్వారా చూద్దాం.
Financial conditions and buoyant external demand. Consumer price inflation softened during July-August, moving back into the tolerance band with an easing of food inflation, corroborating the MPC's assessment of the spike in inflation in May as transitory. Improvement in monsoon in September, the expected Kharif record production, adequate buffer stock of food grains, and lower seasonal pickup in vegetable prices are likely to keep food price pressures muted. Core inflation, however, remains sticky. Elevated global crude oil prices and other commodity prices, combined with acute shortage of key industrial components and high logistics costs, are adding to input cost pressures. Pass-through to output prices has, however, been restrained by weak demand conditions. The evolving situation requires close vigilance. Overall, aggregate demand is improving, but slack still remains. Output is still below pre-pandemic level, and the recovery remains uneven and dependent upon continued policy support. Contact-intensive services, which contribute about 40% of economic activity in India, are still lagging. Supply side and cost push pressures are impinging upon inflation, and these are expected to ameliorate with the ongoing normalization of the supply chains. Efforts to contain cost push pressures through a calibrated reversal of indirect taxes on fuel could contribute to a more sustained lowering of inflation and an anchoring of inflation expectations. Against this backdrop, the MPC decided to retain the prevailing repo rate at 4% and continue with the accommodative stance as stated in the last MPC statement. I would now like to provide an assessment of the growth and inflation scenario. Let me first focus on growth. According to release of National Statistical Office on 31st August, real GDP growth for first quarter of this financial year, at 20.1% exhibited resilience of the economy in the face of the destructive impact, especially in the face of the destructive impact of the second wave of COVID-19. Almost all components of GDP registered year-on-year growth despite a sharp loss of momentum due to the second wave. Recovery in aggregate demand gathered pace in August-September. This is reflected in high-frequency indicators, namely railway freight traffic, port cargo, cement production, electricity demand, e-way bills, GST, and toll collections. The ebbing of infections, together with improving consumer confidence, has been supporting private consumption. The pent-up demand and the festival season should give further fillip to urban demand in the second half of current financial year. Rural demand is expected to get impetus from continued resilience of agricultural sector and record production of Kharif food grains